A few weeks ago, I went on a silent Jesuit prayer retreat. The retreat center was beautiful, situated right next to Lake Dallas. One of the hardest parts about the retreat was dealing with the lack of mental stimulation. I didn't have a phone signal, and I couldn't talk to anyone, not even myself. This was hard for me because I have a very ingrained habit of talking to myself when I'm alone. Sometimes during the retreat when I had free time, I would lie on my bed and almost immediately slip into a very vivid dream state. This would even happen if I was just lying down for 15 minutes. I once heard a podcast from a researcher who was exploring the Arctic and, for days on end, would only see different hues of white, no color. He mentioned that, at night, he would have vibrant, technicolor dreams. He said that he thought this was because his mind was trying to compensate for the lack of color in his life. I think my mind was doing the same thing while experiencing a lack of stimulus, but to a lesser extent. So, since this was a prayer retreat, when I wasn't dreaming vibrantly, I was praying. I'd never really been in a situation where I had a significant portion of the day devoted to praying, but I really enjoyed it. There was one point where I spent 45 minutes laying in this field, praying while looking up at the branches of a tree. I know that for a lot of people, God can feel distant, like an abstract concept that you talk about in a philosophy class, but doesn't really matter in your day-to-day life. This is certainly what it has felt like for me for most of my life, but I've since come to realize that God is an intrinsic part of our existence, always present with us. Psalms 121, my favorite Bible passage, says, "The Lord is your keeper, the Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night." That's so meaningful to me because it's saying that God is always watching over us. He's not busy doing other things, but he is always there with us in a way that we can't even begin to comprehend. One time in my senior year of high school, I went on a stress run after I got deferred early in the college application process. I was faced with having to write 12 college applications in 2 weeks, about 30 essays. In the middle of my run, I stopped at a high point overlooking a lake. I looked out at the scenery and felt a wave of calmness rush over me, as if God was telling me it would be all right. I felt comforted in that moment, and this makes sense. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 says that God comforts us in our troubles. There have been many times when I've been stressing about one thing or another and then felt a sensation of peace, as if God was telling me it was going to be okay. Looking back on my, albeit short, life, so many of the things that I thought were bad at the time ended up making me into who I am today. In my limited human knowledge, I can't see how the things that happen in my life truly end up impacting me like God, who is infinite and beyond our complete comprehension, can. And this is what I was thinking about when I was sitting on the dock at the retreat. There is so much uncertainty in my life as I look forward to my future, and one of the goals of the retreat was to pray for discernment. The spiritual director of the retreat gave a great analogy. He told us about his dad getting out of bed at night to answer the phone. His dad kept running into walls as he tried to pick up the phone, until his wife turned on the lights and, suddenly, his path was illuminated. This resonated with me. All I can do in my life is prayerfully make the best decisions that I can, and trust in God to do the rest. Blind faith. I contemplated this as I watched the waves pass by, rolling undeterred and faithfully on their journey to the shore. I looked at them and thought, so am I.